Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi of Illinois. He is running for the state's open Senate seat.
Congressman, good to have you. You are one of the lawmakers who has been denied entry to an ICE facility. Tell us why you were there, what happened, and what it tells us about the current state of our democracy.
Essentially, hundreds, if not thousands, of local residents in the Chicagoland area were basically summoned to an ICE facility in the South Loop section of Chicago, telling them to, quote unquote, check in for their routine casework as they try to build their status in this country. Many of them reported to this facility, including on Father's Day, and many of these, mainly men, were snatched by ICE agents, separated from their families, and they haven't been heard from since. As a consequence of that, Congressman Jonathan Jackson, in whose district that facility is located, and myself visited that ICE facility and were met with a masked ICE agent who refused to answer our questions, refused to identify himself, and then on top of it all, he called the Chicago police to evict us as trespassers.
So further to that, Congressman, you have the New York Times reporting that ICE is now imposing new rules on congressional visits, noting under federal law, members of Congress can make an unannounced oversight visits to immigration facilities that, quote, detain or otherwise house aliens. Lawmakers are not required to provide prior notice of the intent to enter a facility to conduct oversight, though members of their staff must request a visit at least 24 hours in advance. But in guidance released this month, Immigration and ICE and Customs Enforcement asked members of Congress to give at least 72 hours notice for a visit to its facilities. The question, Congressman, they couldn't do it for 24 hours. What makes you think they're going to follow the rules at 72 hours?
I don't think they will, Michael. I think that this is just another way to kind of delay the oversight that is really needed right now. When we went to this masked ICE agent, he wouldn't even be willing to tell us if any of these people who were summoned to that particular facility were being detained there. And so I think that we have to continue to press hard. I agree with Senator Padilla, by the way, that they're acting out of fear. They have something to hide. And we have to continue to shine a light on this issue because only by making sure the public is aware of what's happening can we kind of marshal the energy and what is needed to change the situation. But of course, more is needed than that. And I've called for Kristi Noem to testify before the House Oversight Committee. I just sent a letter today as well, demanding access to the facility where we were refused. And we're going to pursue this.
What has House Democratic leadership said about that letter? Are they in support of? Did they echo? Did Leader Jeffries sign on to it?
Leader Jeffries has been very supportive of all these efforts, especially from the Oversight Committee, which has broad jurisdiction over these different facilities, including ICE. And so we're going to keep pressing. This is not an issue that's unfortunately going away because, as you can tell, Donald Trump is trying to militarize the situation even more. He's specifically said he's going to target, quote unquote, Democratic-run cities like Chicago and New York and LA. And so the way that he has partisanized this is also making it clear that, we have to act and we have to act forcefully.
Can we pull up that letter from Congressman Raskin to FBI Director Kash Patel? It reads, "This assault on Senator Padilla is another vivid episode of authoritarian tactics and brute force being used to crush oversight and critical questioning, including from sitting members of Congress exercising their constitutional duty." I wonder both what your expectations are of Director Patel, and also if you could speak to the fact that we're talking about oversight in the context of immigration facilities currently, but this is a bigger question about congressional oversight. Where else are you concerned that this might apply?
Well, as you know, we've been pressing hard on DOJ. We've been pressing hard with regard to access to our private data that has, in my opinion, been illegally accessed by the Trump administration and their DOJ employees. But you're right. There's just a lack of accountability here. This is a through line with regard to the Trump administration. You see it with regard to what we talked about with ICE, but you also see it with regard to, as you pointed out, what's happening in the context of other areas of the law, whether it's tariffs, another area where, again, the president seems to be unaccountable to Congress in terms of unleashing economic chaos across the landscape with his tariff increases. And of course, the deployment of troops on American soil. There's no accountability there either. And what we saw on the No King's Day rallies, where thousands and thousands of people showed up, I attended 3 of them, is that we rejected a king in 1776, and we're not going to accept one now.
Congressman, last night in St. Paul, there was a vigil for Representative Melissa Hortman. Community gathered. They spent the time. They wanted to share that moment with each other. Governor Tim Walz and First Lady Gwen Walz also attended the vigil. In the course of this investigation, it has been determined that this individual had a list of names, and it turns out you've confirmed your name was also on the accused shooter's notes. A criminal affidavit revealed several of Vance Boatler's notebooks contained the names of more than 45 state and federal public officials. Sir, this is a sobering moment.
One of the cherished parts of being an American is freedom of movement. When you walk around, and this obviously applies more to certain folks than others, but you usually don't have to stop at internal checkpoints or to show your papers to police. I've traveled in other countries where, say, your bus stops and heavily armed federal agents climb on board to check everyone's papers. It doesn't feel good. It feels like a quintessential fixture of a country that's not fully free. And it's happening more and more and more in Trump's America.
What's up, guys? Let me see your ID, please.
23-year-old Elison Lemus, an electrician, was in his work van with a coworker when they were pulled over by ICE agents in Westbury.
Because you look like somebody woke up.
Looking for?
Lemus asks why they need his ID.
All right, this is going to go one of 2 ways here. Okay. I need to see your ID. If you're not the guy I'm looking for, you're not the guy I'm looking for.
Okay,
right? But we need your ID.
Nah.
Okay, if you don't get your ID, then we're gonna have to figure out another way to ID you. And it may not work out well for you.
Nah. Listen, I'm not rolling up. Keep it down. I keep it down close. What are you doing?
The agent forces the door open and demands Lemus stops recording. Lemus was born and raised in New York and was stunned.
I felt like my rights were just like out the window.
So those agents pulled that 23-year-old from the van. They handcuffed him, later released him after confirming, whoopsies, he's an American. No apologies. And he's not alone. Brian Gvidia, who was born and raised in Los Angeles, was working on a car in a tow yard last week. When he stepped outside, he was thrown into a metal fence by federal agents who asked him where he was born.
I'm American, bro. Yo, these guys are literally based off of skin color. My homie was born here just because of the way he looks.
Again, you're working, you're outside, armed mass federal agents come up and say, show me your papers, push you up against the fence. He was not arrested, but he told the LA Times that those agents took his real ID and never returned it.
Recent past, back in 2019, you did some incredible reporting, Helene, about how Trump backed off of a strike with Iran with just 10 minutes to spare when he learned that 150 people would die. He liked being able to command the strike. He liked calling it off. It suggests that more than anything, he likes to be in charge. Tell me if you think I am getting that right, and is that the case now?
I think you're absolutely right, and I think that the center of attention with all the eyes of the world right on him and on what is he going to do? What is he going to decide to do? At the end of the day, you and I, we all know that Trump comes from a non-intervention strand of foreign policy making. So it is not his instinct. He has demonstrated time and time again that he does not want to be involved in long-term military entanglements in the Mideast. He appears at this point to have convinced himself that this could be a short-term military entanglement, and that is where I think there's some dispute coming from the Pentagon about how long this could take. Dropping, even if they're only going to go after Fordo, that's going to take a number of strikes. It's not going to be just one bomb. It would be waves and waves. You would be looking at streams of B2s. Time, and again, you'd be looking at a number of strikes that would be necessary. So this is going to probably be a lot longer than I think he expects, but I don't know where he is going to come out on it. As for what Senator McCaskill is saying about where is Senator Wicker, she was on the Senate Armed Services Committee with him, but he's been in the past. He sat with the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, who was before the Senate Armed Services Committee testifying yesterday. And there were a lot of questions from Democrats about where we're going on Iran. There weren't as many from Republicans. They were still focusing on the cultural issues. It felt like that Defense Secretary Hegseth himself has been so enamored of.
Glad to know that they have their eyes on the prize at such a perilous time for this country. Helene Cooper.
Donald Trump's tactics, fascistic in nature as they are, demonstrate his weakness and demonstrate his desire to hide something. The man is weak in both foreign and domestic policy. And I want to be very clear. I'm not one of these people that's like, oh, Donald, you're so weak, so you better bomb this foreign country or to show that you're a real man, which is what you're hearing people say to Trump effectively. What you're hearing in right-wing media, what you're hearing from some Republicans, what you're hearing from even some war hawkish Democrats. They're not necessarily the majority, but you're hearing it from some of them. It's like, why aren't you tougher? Why aren't you bombing Iran? Right? So I don't want to suggest that, but it's like, strength in this case would be Trump saying, no, I'm not going to do this dumbass thing. I'm not going to do it. I don't need 2 weeks to think about it. I am firmly committed to solving this issue as best I can without anybody getting hurt and without any use of force on behalf of the United States, and with an effort to try to discourage force use by Israel or by Iran. Because, it's better for the region. It's better for the working class people in every country. That's the strong position. One, Trump seems to be leaning towards the weak position, which is to just explode things. That's weak and cowardly. But also the weak position in the sense that he needs another 2 weeks to decide. What the hell is that? That's not him saying, we're still discussing things. That's not even him saying, well, obviously I'm not just going to announce here at this meeting what my full roadmap plan is, but it showcases that he is cowering away as at home Democrats try to inspect his fascism and they get pushed away, and abroad as he's afraid to make the right decision because that right decision will piss off his donors and the neocon far right.